the good word.
Hello, and welcome to the Saladcast on Sunday, the 12th of June, 2022. I'm your host, Dan Train. Join me today, Zachary Burgess.
We're non-infused.
And Robert Kemp.
Or infused. It's Junemas.
Junemas?
It's gaming Christmas.
No, not really. I mean, the products don't come out now,
No,
for a start.
no,
that's not quite how that works.
That is very true.
I mean, if they get to a Steam sale in June, then maybe. Or any store sale, I guess. I'll take Steam mainly, but whichever sale you want. I mean, I suppose the Epic Games Store has had their one.
Yeah, well, there's still a couple days remaining on the mega sale. It's not as mega as Epic sales have been in the past, though, right? Because it's like you get a 25% off voucher this time, rather than their strange, like, just get £10 off system.
Yeah.
I suppose it's good if you're in for some AAAs, but like if like what I've gamed the system in the past, where it's just like, well, I'll just get the things that that are sort of just over £10, so I'm only spending a couple of quid, and then it works out.
Clever.
But who cares about the Epic Store anyway?
I do know a couple.
You still fully against the Epic Store, Zach?
I just can't be bothered. I'll just log in to get if there's any free game that is even remotely interesting. It's just like, well, add that to the pile, and then I'll never even remember that I have it.
Right.
Hell yeah.
Because it's not in your list that you normally look at.
No, I'm definitely doing that. Just log in every now and then and be like, well, I don't have that. Add.
Or sometimes
free.
add things you already have for there.
Yep. Just in case on the off chance Steam ever died.
Well, I think it's more likely that Epic will die before Steam.
I mean,
What do you have that's free from the Epic Game Store?
Maneater is the current freebie.
Oh, yeah.
Shark Simulator.
Sharks, yeah.
I mean, I technically got Borderlands free if I can ever be bothered with that.
Yeah, I think I missed that one. Was it Surviving Mars? Ended up on there.
Did it? I don't remember.
For a bit.
I mean, City Skylines, obviously, we talked about that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
There are occasionally some decent stuff on there.
Was that on offer on their City Skylines, or was it free?
It's free.
Oh, nice. That's pretty good.
Gosh, like indie games like A Short Hike have been on there. My memory is saying Subnautica might have turned up on it at some point. A Zach favourite. But yeah, no, it's worth paying attention to the to the Epic free game list. So it's not often that it's a real biggie, but it's there's some stuff you should check out.
Is that their way to entice people to log on to the Epic Game Store?
Absolutely, yeah.
Because Steam doesn't have an equivalent of that, does it?
No, not this sort of free system, especially not one without any kind of subscription or anything like that.
Or you could even potentially remember to log into the EA shit and get their free stuff.
I forgot
Origin.
they did that.
Yep.
I know.
Who cares about the EA store at this point? Definitely no one.
Yeah.
Did they rename it, or is it still called Origin?
Still Origin, I think, on PC.
Wow, they really, I don't know, Epic, I suppose it was Fortnite, wasn't it? But Epic looked like a better position than EA did at the time when they launched Origin. So it seems like that could make sense, but now they've got barely any games these days, seems to me.
Ubisoft still have Uplay as well, let's not forget, which is where like Rainbow Six is hosted. And
I mean, EA basically... EA might as well have got rid of their store once they absorbed into Game Pass, basically.
Yeah,
right.
To an extent, yeah. There's still lots of people that don't have Game Pass, but you only get EA Play if you have Game Pass Ultimate.
Yeah,
it's worth pointing out. But yeah, I get EA Play because I've got Game Pass Ultimate. So
is that what you need for like FIFA and stuff?
Yeah, you don't get day one releases on EA Play, but some stuff does turn up there relatively quickly. Like a FIFA game will turn up like halfway through the season, halfway through the year, and then you'll get the latest FIFA will turn up. I think some of the NHL games seem a lot faster than that, so they'll turn up pretty quickly. Just got to look forward to when those Call of Duty start dropping on Game Pass.
I saw trailers for Modern Warfare 2 remake. I presume
There has indeed been trailers. There's been many trailers. 'Tis the season of trailers.
Of course,
Summer Game Fest is upon us.
Summer game. It's not E3 time, I guess.
Definitely not E3.
I mean, the question is, like, when is the not E3? Because, like, I mean, I guess Microsoft is today, but Nintendo are, as usual, not like just going to come out of the blue with, like, an announcement one day before it happens.
Yeah, I don't think, like, since E3 stopped, Nintendo haven't really engaged with the season, have they? They haven't engaged with Summer Game Fest particularly. I mean, they advertise on some of the SGF stuff.
I mean, they always put out a video in June kind of time.
Yeah,
so far.
But I mean, but they've scaled back on things like their Treehouse shows and stuff like that they used to do. And
have they? I don't know. I feel like they've still done one of them every year.
Really?
After the main video.
Oh, I thought that stopped with COVID. Maybe you're right. I tend not to watch those anyway.
Well, no. Mainly because it's mostly just spoilers for a game that you're probably going to want. Like the main game that they show in there directly, you're like, oh, that's a game I'm looking forward to. And it's just like, well, here's a guy playing it for 2 hours. It's like, I don't want to watch that.
No, it's like your in-depth direct showed me probably more than I needed to know in the first place.
Yeah.
So it's... 'Tis the season. But
So is Summer Games Fest like independently organised thing, or
kinda? Jeff Keighley of the Game Awards has kind of leapt on the fact that E3 have dropped the ball since COVID started, and has been able to sort of rally quite a lot of players into doing a show under his banner.
That's good.
I mean, even the Xbox event is technically under the Summer Game Fest banner. Or, you know, he will promote that event. And good on him. He's managed to capture the digital side of it. But also, like, they actually did run a little physical event as well. So Summer Game Fest had their own sort of journalist-focused event where they could come and sit down and play games, kind of like the old days, just without the big, ridiculously huge booths and things like that. It's just like, here's a space for the journos to come play games for a few days, and it's like, this seems to have worked out quite well. It's like they've filling a little hole basically that the industry is the E3 effectively left because E3 got too big, and then E3 couldn't figure out what to do to keep going and stay relevant, so they made it a public show, which sounds like it's been backfiring.
Right, yeah.
You know,
because previously it was journalists only, wasn't it? Originally, E3.
Industry only, yeah.
Industry only, yeah. So where is this physical part of the Summer Games Fest? Is it in LA?
I would imagine it's still in LA. Given the people on Twitter I've seen that have actually went to it, and they're all LA based or that neck of the woods anyway, that side of America. I would imagine it's there. I didn't look into that, but yeah, good on you, Jeff. Taking over.
I did watch the very, very start of it, and it was just like, it felt kind of weird that the first thing he basically said was, well, no games are coming out this year, so don't worry, we've got some other games to show you.
I mean, he's not wrong.
Well, yeah, it's true. But it seemed like a weird way to start that show. It's like, you're already disappointed by all the big games not coming out, but here's some other games, I guess.
Yeah, what did he say? It's like we haven't got all the things, but we've got things. It was sort of what he was saying.
But God of War is still coming out this year, right?
Yep, apparently.
Yep,
that's what they keep saying.
Still aiming for November.
Yeah, which is late enough to have me worried for the sake of the league.
Sure.
The Fantasy League. Speaking of which, we've had another high-profile delay. Okay, straight into news. Let's go. We've got a lot of it.
Yeah, not today.
Homeworld 3 has been delayed out of 2022.
That's that high-profile, really.
No, but there's been in development for ages, this thing, and it's like another delay. And before everything really got kicked off, we should probably talk about Sonic Frontiers.
Oh, okay.
Because they've been continuing to show stuff for it, or like IGN are trying to anyway.
Yeah. So Sega have
they're doing
done
quite a lot of previews, aren't they?
Sega have done a deal with IGN, so it's IGN first, which I think is they do one of those every month, and it's like they focus on a thing for the month.
I see. And this month it's Sonic Frontiers.
Yeah, which is
okay,
slightly unusual. But so is Sonic Frontiers. What a weird looking game this is. Like, so Breath of the Hedgehog is apparently a thing, but
or Unreal Engine tech demo.
Yeah.
As everyone is calling it.
This seems to be the biggest problem with it, is its look, right? It's like it's not technically incompetent, let's not put it that way, but in the same way it's got that sort of overplayed hyper real kind of look to it, where it's just
kind of washed out in comparison to like Breath of the Wild.
Exactly,
stylized.
It's not very. I think that's the thing. It's like it's not very uniquely stylized. It's not feeling very Sonic at all, other than the fact that Sonic is in it.
Although I suppose looking back to Sonic Adventure, like that was less stylized than like Mario 64s or whatever. Do you know what I mean?
Well,
in terms of grass textures and things, and it looked more like a realistic world than. I mean, it was a bit odd. The juxtaposition of Sonic and a realistic world was the famously weird thing about Sonic Adventure. So this is kind of similar,
their shift to not being on Mobius anymore.
I don't think it was a realistic enough world to make it totally ridiculous. Because it was the modern game, obviously, so it wasn't that realistic.
Exactly. they were working within the limitations of the time, which meant that being super stylized hadn't really become a thing yet.
True.
I mean, it had. I mean, that's not strictly true, but like there was, Jet Set Radio hadn't happened yet.
Sure. But now you can do whatever you want, pretty much, and they've done a kind of generically realistic, open, grassy open world, but with a bunch of Sonic elements all over it, kind of rails and the ping pong, what are they called? The things that shoot you.
The springs.
Flying springs, I guess.
Yeah.
All over the place. Yeah. The movement doesn't look that bad considering it's a fully 3D. Yeah.
Well, except I hope you like the boost whoosh noise, because apparently you're going to be hearing that continuously.
I mean, that's true of any Sonic game.
Not really, though. You hear it like once when you start boosting, whereas in this game it seems like you constantly do it to just maintain momentum, because there isn't really any momentum, because it's still the Force's engine, apparently.
Oh, really?
Which means the movement physics is going to be bad.
Huh.
So it's not.
Oh, that wasn't my biggest
from
problem
scratch with that.
But in fairness, that wasn't my biggest problem with Forces. Like Sonic's movement was okay. The rookie's movement was weird.
Well, but sure. Although that was more for the homing attack equivalent being weird, where that broke its momentum even more. But get ready for a really shitty double jump.
Because that boost noise is accompanied by that kind of optical effect, right? Where it sort of
well, the thing is, it doesn't
lenses.
Seem like the way they've been showing it in this game so far, and maybe it's just like this is just how they're showing it or whatever. But like, it doesn't seem like you hold it down. It doesn't seem like you hold it and you don't go into boost mode and you just like boost. You just like it's to like push you back up to speed or whatever.
It's a sudden bump.
So it doesn't look like you're going to be like washing out the music or whatever, assuming there even is music to wash out.
Well, yeah, because that's the other strange thing, isn't it? They've not really been. I guess because the setting has changed, it's like they probably would have had to have changed up Sonic's music style quite a bit to make it work in open world and not be annoying. But what they've shown so far is like they've never really. I don't think the footage they've ever shown us has ever been like. It feels like the music was added after the fact,
right?
Because the music just plays. Like when they do a cut in the footage, it's like the music doesn't cut. It's like the music's just been overlaid, and it's this very somber. It's not quite Breath of the Wild-ish, but just
it is piano-y,
just subdued piano music, which is very unsonic.
True, but then there's a lot of problems with the graphics, but like one of the things that and suddenly this time in this Sonic game specifically have realised is like they really need to just like make new sound effects. It's these same goddamn sound effects we've been hearing for like 20 years.
Yeah.
Right.
We just got the same spring noise and the same boost noise.
Yeah. I mean the spring noise they've used since they went 3D. Yeah, that's never changed as it's in Sonic Adventure.
And it's so out of
And it's
place
like
now in this world.
But
Also,
it's,
just
and it's
like-
also just not as cool as the classic "Wong" from
Well,
the original games.
true.
And it's like,
No.
And also, like, this is a more like specific sort of complaint about the style of it. It's just like they really have just like thrown in all the Sonic rails and springs just into this world.
Yeah.
It's not like
Yeah.
they don't match the world in any way. They're
No,
just
no,
like
no.
chucked on top of it, which makes them look super out of place again.
the little never explained boost pads are everywhere.
Yeah.
Right? The ones on the little conveyor belts on the floor.
They
And
look
the-
particularly odd at a distance, like as they pop in or whatever, like all the rails and stuff.
The
look
rails
really
in the
weird.
sky, yeah.
Yeah.
I thought they were going to do something to perhaps like hold those up in some way in this world, but like no, they haven't. They just float,
Yeah.
and
They're not like themed to the environment or anything. They're just like generic rails.
just rails. Yeah,
Mm.
And there's no like, or at least as far as we've seen, they don't seem to have made any particular effort to like construct Sonic stuff into the world.
Mm.
Like, loops made of rock or anything.
Yeah,
There's some
which is
circular
a classic
doorways
part
which
of.
are kind of loop-esque,
Right,
but
yeah.
that doesn't
That's
really
what you'd
count.
want, right? From a Sonic open world, is like a lot of loops, like carved into the landscape and stuff. Like,
Yeah.
you want
Yeah.
roots, I think, rather than openness. It's like
Which is a problem for an open world game.
yeah,
Yeah, I guess.
But I see that criticism, but it's like if you imagine like the 3D segments from Sonic Generations, say,
Yeah.
it's like those are crafted routes, right, to get around, and those are a lot of fun because they're crafted, and there's the odd occasion to break those routes and go find other ones, right? That was the sort of trick of running Sonic Generations fast. There were these like hardcore extra little tricks you could do to cut bits of level and things like that, and those could be your shortcuts in your routes and stuff like that. And it's like I don't mind having the odd little open area, I think, but like having these cool routes to connect everything together and then have little areas for the puzzles and things like that would probably have been a better fit for Sonic than this.
Well, also, just like, it's hard to tell from this footage, but like, why would you bother with most of these rails? They don't go anywhere.
I mean, well, it's hard to know, isn't it? Because I guess they just speed you up, but like, do they even do that?
Well, yeah, because you're like looping back on yourself, so you're wasting time not going in the direction you want to go. It's just like, just run along the ground, and you'll probably get to where you need to go faster.
It is odd. That said, the more of the footage they've been revealing over time, there is more, like, okay, aesthetics aside and strange world design aside, I'm kind of getting more and more in the more they show. Like, the new combat systems do look vaguely interesting because, Sonic
I don't know
combat
about that.
has always kind of sucked, right? Well, there's never been anything to Sonic combat. That's the problem.
Yeah.
But
And
what
it's like,
they've put into this combat is extremely slow combat, which is kind of boring and grindy from what they've shown so far.
maybe we'll see, but it is it's interesting from a Sonic perspective. Let's put it that it's different, and
What's the mechanic they're showing? Like to attack the 3D enemies,
so you still have homing attack. That's still a thing.
Yeah.
Fine. And then I guess you chain it into a bunch of kicks.
Yeah, they have these specials and
which
things
is like
now
Shadow from Sonic 06. The best reference.
Oh god.
So you leap towards, you jump up and then you hit the button to homing attack, but then how do you, I obviously haven't played it, but how do you chain into a kick?
We just keep mashing the button, presumably.
Maybe, we don't really know at that point how that actually controls. Maybe one of the IGN interviews talks about it, something like that. But the traditional style has always been when you homing attack into something and you hit it, like the hit will always ping Sonic vertically upwards. So then you have a sort of moment to change direction and home onto something else if you need to, or just float away if it's now dangerous, which it seems to be what they've shown with like the enemies and stuff. It's like they're not always safe to attack, and that's the thing. It's about timing your attacks, and
which is another way that combat looks extremely slow, where it's just like, I'm just going to have to stand here for 5 seconds while this enemy does whatever it's doing that prevents me from attacking it. or the enemies that are explicitly invulnerable to direct attacks. So you have to do a specific, quite slow move to cause them to open up, and then do a different move to actually attack them.
Yeah, one of the things they've shown is the carve a path on the floor, right, and then everything inside that path gets flung into the air. So then they become vulnerable whilst they're in the air. So then you can like homing attack around them. And I wonder if there's probably some puzzly stuff to do with that, where you fling them into the air, and then perhaps they make because they're in the air, there's then a path you can traverse to get to some other area.
I don't know. That seems too smart.
Like, it seems too obvious. I don't know. I mean, I am intrigued, but yeah, there's some red flags here. There's some weirdness.
Do you think they've got a lot of feedback. Do you think they'll take some of it on board, or I don't know? It's hard to tell.
I don't know.
Are they too advanced with it?
Because when Sonic Frontiers, is it still slated for this year?
Yep.
Oh right, okay.
So that doesn't give them a great deal of time.
Well, it gives them essentially no time, really.
Yeah,
realistically.
Because now they should be in polish phase right now, right?
Yeah. That was the thing that I saw as soon as I looked at the top of the YouTube comments. I was like, oh, here's everyone saying it looks like an Unreal Engine demo, and here's all the Sonic fans being like, but they've totally got enough time to polish this up before release. It's like, no, you're crazy.
They really don't.
Because I just thought by looking at the footage that it looked unfinished.
Yeah,
so,
like all the popping and the weird animation jank. It's just like, this is just stuff that would theoretically get polished if they had time to polish it. And popping, I don't think that's like engine level.
There's stuff you can do with that. Like, I think there's enough time for that. But my core concern is it's the core design of the game that is the most troubling. Or maybe troubling's a bit harsh, but the most sort of like out there, right? It's the most uncomfortable part of it because it's so different.
It's cool that they're trying something new.
Yeah,
And
I've mentioned it before. Like it is interesting that they didn't just go back to the well, right? Because after Forces came out, I always struggle to remember his name, but effectively, like someone at Sega of America is quoted as saying, "It's like we're going to spend the time to make a good Sonic game rather than just get a game out in a reasonable in a certain time frame, which is how we've been doing it up to this point."
Which doesn't look like it's happened, to be honest. It looks like they've rushed this one out again.
Well, maybe they thought they were going to do that, and then somebody said, "Oh no, it has to be out at this time."
Maybe. Which might explain, the rushedness, the rushed feel of it. Because apparently that's also what happened to Forces and things like that. That it's just like no, the release schedule was forced upon them too much.
Yeah. Maybe it does make business sense to keep releasing bad Sonic games rather than make a good one. It's hard to tell.
It probably does, right? Because we Sonic people be mental.
Maybe, and we'll always buy it. But I mean, imagine I'm sure you could. I don't know. Who knows?
In fairness, like Sonic Forces was like one of the few times where I didn't just immediately jump on the Sonic thing. Like I waited for that to go like dirt cheap, and then. I
suppose everyone had their fill by playing Sonic Mania at the time, so they had a good Sonic game to play.
Sonic Forces really suffered because of Mania, because Mania. I think Mania came out just in front of it, and was amazing, and then it's like this other one doesn't look that great.
Yeah, but did that make? That's the question. Is like, did Mania make? I know it was a cheap game, but did it make a ton of money by being good, or did it actually matter?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the market sales for Mania actually were. It's like critically, everyone loves it generally, but it's
You'd think that would have been quite cheap to make as well.
I mean, the other reason Rob didn't get into Forces immediately was because he actually played a demo.
I had already played the demo.
That was the main thing for that one.
The demo would actually put Forces in a more positive light than the rest of the game, though, because the demo focused on.
Yeah, but that's because you didn't know that the demo was so much of the game.
I mean that too. Yeah.
Proportionally.
That too. I mean, the demo I think played that first level in the Spagonia-like city, where everything's getting destroyed, and also the first 2D Green Hill level.
Yeah.
Both of which are kind of fine, and I was like, well, this seems fine. But the also problem was that the same year, that was when I first played Sonic Mania, and they had the Studiopolis level like right next to it, and I'm like, damn, son.
But I mean, I don't think the comparison is as important as actually playing either of them. Like playing Sonic Forces by itself was enough to be like, oh, this is like Generations, but not as good.
Yeah. I don't think I got to play as the rookie in my EGX time, so I didn't really get a feel for how skank that ended up being. Oh no, I can't really remember. Yeah. Not well enough. Who cares? Sonic. Sonic is weird. You see they're doing a Netflix show as well.
Yeah. Which also looks pretty
weird. It looks weird, doesn't it?
Well, for kids.
Even like Frontiers and this show, it's just like neither of these feel like they're showing them correctly. Like in Sonic Frontiers case, it's like they very specifically partitioned these videos to be like, here's the exploration video, here's the combat video, where I'm sure it would probably be better just to show everything at once.
Yeah. I think that's the thing. I think Sonic Frontiers will probably look better if you showed its flow in general, because none of the UI has been shown.
No,
right?
that too.
Like that, which may be the stuff they're currently still working on, because that's UI stuff always does seem to shift right at the end of development.
But then the show, they're showing these tiny teasers that have absolutely no context whatsoever, which is not helping.
It's really strange, and and the animation doesn't even look great, right? It looks oddly.
What kind is it?
There's something oddly it's CG. It's like, but it looks. I don't know. There's like too low frame rate in some weird way. It's hard to put my finger on it. Something looks off. Like Sonic Boom's like technical animation isn't great. It's it's a TV show. It's not firing on all cylinders in terms of like top tier CG budget, but it's fine, right? It's good enough. It gets the job done.
Yeah.
And I don't know. We should mention this is also called Sonic Prime, which seems like an odd name.
Well, I mean, it's clearly like it's green. It's real Green Hill Zone and everything. Yeah. So like.
With Shadow.
Well, sure. But they're just like, let's have the real Sonic, I guess.
The realist.
But then
Sonic
Shadow. And also Big the Cat, I guess.
Does that mean John DiMaggio's coming back? Or?
No. I don't think so.
Is it John DiMaggio? No, it's the guy that does Duke Nukem that does Big the Cat.
I don't think it's any of the original voices, I don't think, by the sounds of it. I mean, you can tell with Big.
Yeah.
So as he speaks, it's like, oh yeah, that's not a real voice.
Like, yeah, so which Sonic actor have they got? Have they got Ben Schwartz, or have they got the guy who's the current has been the current Sonic voice since Sonic Boom, I guess. That sort of
probably.
Is there any Tails and Knuckles action in Sonic Frontiers?
Well, I mean,
where is everyone?
I mean, this is the speculation where it's like, again, things that they still haven't shown about Sonic Frontiers that might make it better. Where it's just like we've
only seen this first area, right? Presumably the whole game can't be this biome.
Well,
right?
because that's what like the two things that people have heard fairly solid. I think it was from like an alpha test where they leaked NDAs or whatever, but like people have been talking about the cyberspace levels, which are more traditional Sonic levels,
right.
And they haven't shown that yet. And then there's already been people talking about there's Tails and Amy and like a bunch of other characters, and they haven't shown any of that yet
because they haven't really, I guess, explained anything about the glitchy power,
the story of anything.
Because they show
you explode and then you're suddenly on a cliff. that's as much story as we've got, assuming that those two bits of cutscene they've shown are actually linked.
Yeah, because isn't there some sort of... Oh no, that was the Sonic Prime thing, wasn't it? Where they showed Knuckles just standing in front of the Master Emerald.
Yeah.
But the lightning was in a sort of oddly... Behind him was in a sort of square shape.
I don't know if that was Prime. That might have been...
Or was it in one of the Frontiers clips?
Yeah,
was that from the Sonic Central presentation, which also was terrible? Yeah. Don't watch that.
I don't think it was... I don't think it's necessarily in Frontiers, but it might be like a lead-up thing. Like a pre-story or whatever, like they sometimes do. But I don't know.
It did make me laugh a little bit in that Sonic Central thing where they were like, last year was the 30th year of Sonic.
And we did shit
and we did nothing. Get it together, Sega. I mean, you're so good at Yakuza. How are you so bad at Sonic?
They're so good at Yakuza.
Well, no, the studio that Sega hires to do Yakuza.
Yeah, exactly.
They're like effectively totally independent, the Yakuza people, but they just have always worked with Sega as the publisher.
Yeah, but that's how they get to. Well, I think they're made of like. I think they do actually have like old school Sega devs on staff, and
I bet.
hence
That's
like,
cool.
yeah, and Sega have been very. What's the word? Generous with them for using other Sega properties.
Yeah, that's cool.
So prepare yourself for the next 5-ish months for our video series of Sonic Frontiers.
Of Sonic Frontiers.
Where Rob can play it and hopefully be marginally less disappointed than Forces. That would be nice.
Yeah, I never did
Forces
bring
was funny though.
I never did
It's a
bring
good video
myself to go
series.
back and play Forces after we did.
Have you only played it through the once, like as a Happy Salad video
Yeah,
series?
yeah. I never really went back to it. I sort of had the intent to go and try and do it off video because some games do feel different if we do it for recording compared to just playing them off camera.
Yeah.
And I wondered if there would be some element to Forces that I could maybe spend the time to figure out, like the rookie and like how it actually controls and some of the weird stuff with the wisp powers and all that stuff. But I'm betting I wouldn't have, and it just didn't appeal. It's like go play something else. Can't
Could
stop
you
the
switch
sun.
away from the rookie if you didn't want to play as a rookie?
There were levels. Basically, each level was for a specific style.
You could change the weapon, and that was it for the rookie, which did help sometimes.
And certain levels seem to favour certain weapon types.
A bit too much in some cases.
You weren't quite sure what you were getting into until you played the level,
And then you had to, and then you choose the appropriate character after you'd failed.
Kind of.
Probably.
Except not really.
Well, yeah, because you just did it. And
Yeah,
then
you don't really fail in Sonic. You just die.
Oh, okay.
And then you keep
Yeah,
going.
of course.
You can always just go back to it later and try and get the red rings.
They need to. I mean, like now that they've got an open world, I guess that they can do that. But like, they need to stop doing that in regular Sonic games. They need to stop trying to force you to play the same level like 5 goddamn times. Because Forces was egregious in that one, where it's like you get the red rings, then you get the numbered rings, then you get the moon coin,
And then the weird SOS missions.
and then the SOS missions
that didn't
also,
seem to mean anything.
They just want you to play the same level at least 3 times to get all the different collectibles in it, because they don't all even appear in one go. You have to actually complete each set.
I don't necessarily have a huge problem with the red ring system. It is okay. Maybe once they added the moon stuff, so like maybe that's a level too high. But like I'd quite like them to go down the route that perhaps Sonic Origins is taking, where they actually have like more specific challenges, or maybe like little mini levels, kind of like what Sonic Generations did, right? The little challenges in between the big levels.
Well, yes, but
they didn't do any of that in Forces.
no.
So
Well, I mean, they did. They were the shitty challenge levels. They were just all bad.
I can't remember any of them.
Flying Pod 2.
Flying Pod.
Or Flying Pod 1, because there never was a 2. Thank God.
Was it just called Flying Pod 1 and then we never found a Flying Pod
No,
2?
it's just called Flying Pod. We discussed it in the video
Oh, okay.
about how where's number 2, but there's no number. And Rob has apparently forgotten this
I
whole
have
thing.
no recollection
Which
of
is
that.
good for you, to be honest, because you've purged that from your memory, the nightmare of Flying Pod.
Amazing. Well, thank you, Sonic Frontiers, for existing.
Hopefully.
Some good content coming your way.
Yeah.
Eventually,
Some content.
when this thing comes out.
When you say hopefully, do you reckon thinking it's going to get canned? Or
Well, I mean, it might get delayed.
that's true.
That's true.
Well, I mean, let's hope it gets delayed, right?
Yeah,
like
that might be
like
good.
a delay on a Sonic game can't be a bad thing.
No, agreed.
And, people just expect Sonic to get delayed now after the movie. But that's not how that works.
But I hope they're on top. Like, it might just be a poor showing, but I hope they're on. More to the point. I don't hope it gets delayed. I hope they're on top of it. Whatever way it ends up going, I hope they're aware more than anything.
Maybe they will learn from the film and the fact that they previewed and people were like, ugh, and then they fixed it. And people liked it.
I kind of buy into the conspiracy theory that Ugly Sonic was.
It's intentional.
Yeah,
Really?
I don't think so.
it's just, but it was so bad.
Yeah.
It seems too bad to have just been like, it's just.
Yeah, it was a good meme as well.
You want to take a little sidetrack? I watched that Rescue Rangers
Right.
in the end.
Oh, you did? Oh, sorry, we didn't watch it together. Yeah.
I couldn't help myself.
Sure.
Yeah, Noam and I watched it. That's an odd film. It's like
Yeah.
it doesn't quite land as well as the promise. It suffers from a real identity crisis, which is strange. Like, because that's kind of the plot in a way, and it's like 100% laser focused, targeted at our age demographic and the sorts of shows that were on when we were kids.
Oh,
and
weird.
it's like and plays to that hard. And it's like the references are great. Like, you know, when you see some of these things, the property, you know, just recognizing the properties they've got in this thing, and you're just like, oh, cool, they've got that. In the sort of same way as like spotting characters in the background of Ready Player One was kind of
Ready
cool
Player
at
One,
times.
yeah.
And it's doing that, and occasionally they will throw in the odd joke around those things, and those are fine. Where the thing kind of falls down is that like you take that target demographic, like the late 30s, grew up with Rescue Rangers and Tailspin and those sorts of shows, and DuckTales and those sorts of shows demographic, and then you make turns out to be a pretty tame family film out of it.
Kids movie, yeah.
It doesn't really work. It doesn't sit right. It's like
See, that's where famously, of course, Who Framed Roger Rabbit pitched it really well.
Well, yeah, because it's a little bit darker and a little bit seedier than you'd expect, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, but that's a totally different plan. Like, I don't think this one was aiming to be for us exactly. I think it was aiming to be for us and our kids.
Yeah, I mean, I
it's
get
like
that.
you don't get you can't do. You can't take your kids to. Well, you could take your kids to Who Framed Roger Rabbit in the 80s, I guess.
Yeah, that probably would have been okay.
Yeah, good point.
But I know exactly that is exactly what they're trying to do. But there is an art to films being able to work on both levels.
Yeah,
and I don't think this nails that. I think it works kind of okay as a family movie, but it's almost like the kids aren't going to know who anyone is, and they're not really going to have that attachment to those characters. So it's not really for them either. Like, it's just a little wrong. It's not awful. I don't want to say that. Like, yeah, it is funny in places. But I think a lot of my favourite jokes were kind of in the trailer, and they were
naturally,
and they were quite referential jokes as well. So yeah, Rescue Rangers. It is worth a look. Don't watch the trailer. Just go into it blind, and you'll probably have a better time. Some fun Seth Rogen stuff.
get ready for Donkey Kong.
Smoke 'em up, Bowser.
However the Seth Rogen laugh sounds.
Yeah.
Right. State of play. PlayStation did a state of play before everything really got going. It did slightly count. They did put the Summer Game Fest logo on screen at one point, so it was still under the banner. But yeah, they came in early. Few announcements coming out of this. Resident Evil 4, the least surprising Resident Evil announcement.
Because they've been going through them in order, and I
think it leaked a whole year ago as well that they were doing this. Yeah, they did around to get doing Resi 3.
I mean, the one that we've got that Resident Evil fans have got to be waiting for is 6, right? See if they can recover that shit show.
Oh my god! Yeah.
But 4 is the one that people
Everyone
really
likes.
liked on the GameCube, right? So yeah,
4 set the tone for the Resis that followed, right? 4 was so successful in its translation to proper 3D, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
Resi hasn't really turned back. Like, since Village, I get no, not Village, 7, right? 7 was the one where they suddenly went first person and changed it again. But but yeah, 4, 5, 6, and most of the little weird spin-off games would use 4 as its template.
Yeah.
So it's a big deal, but it's also less of a exciting remake, right? Because it was already in 3D, and it's less It's less of a jump than Resi 2 remake was.
You're not converting the classic style to essentially Resident Evil 4 style, right?
Yeah, well, presumably they're going to have to change the controls a bit because Resi was early and thus had some slightly bizarre control mechanisms. Still, they opened with that. Spider-Man or Spider-Man, the Peter Parker guy. He's coming to PC. Marvel's Spider-Man Remastered is getting a PC release. Cool. Which is quite surprising. I know Sony are doing a bit of a PC push with some of their IPs, but
that's cool.
I didn't think this would be one of them.
Be good to see how far you can push the ray tracing with a ridiculous graphics card. Yeah,
and they seem to have notably have removed Tom Holland's face.
Oh, they put it back.
And that's good. Yeah, it's back to the original look.
Yeah, I don't know why they did that. That was annoying.
Marketing.
Is it still that way on if you play Miles Morales, I guess?
I think so, yeah.
Tom Holland face, yeah. It doesn't even really look like Tom Holland. It just looks more like him than the original.
I don't know if they changed his voice in that version. I don't know if they did that. I don't know if they did the full voice work. And ended up just changing his face.
Not sure. Might have just been the face.
Still,
but
that's a great game, and it deserves a little bit of a...
Yeah, it is a great game.
Immortalizing, effectively. As soon as you put it on PC, it's like, oh, great, that's safe.
Yeah, that's true. You can now play this forever.
So that's cool. We got a little bit more of a look at Stray. I don't think we learnt anything from it. That game's out real soon. It's out 19th of July. I mean, I'm still hype.
Yeah.
I can get hype for little kiddies. I don't think we needed to see any more, is the thing. It's like, it doesn't... I mean, yeah, tell us that it's still about, but it's getting to that point where it's like, we've seen so much Stray now,
right,
on and off over the years, that it's just like, yeah, okay, I just want this to play this now. I don't need to see it anymore. Rollerdrome is coming out on the 16th of August. And it's like if you took the art style of Sable, mixed that in with Tony Hawk's style trick system but on roller skates, and then added guns, so you're shooting dudes at the same time, and you get Rollerdrome.
Sounds like a kind of Thunderdome kind of future sport thing.
Yeah, and it's exactly that. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So it's competitive with you shooting each other, but also doing tricks.
I don't think it's competitive. I think it's like a single player challengey sort of thing. Maybe their score runs or something. It's an interesting looking one. And finally, Final Fantasy 16 dropped a trailer.
Oh.
It's a fantasy world this time.
Is that the newest? I've lost track of how many.
No, 16's not out yet. 16 is the upcoming, is the next numbered entry. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
So no Audis and no guys in t-shirts.
No. There's no leather jacket, bros. Well, not yet. Anyway, I'm sure there's someone in there in a nice shiny leather jacket somewhere. There normally is. But no, this looks like very fantasy. Sort of, that sort of medieval castles.
Oh, okay.
Kind of deal. It's a hard trailer to really see what's going on, but it's another one of these Final Fantasy games that's carrying on in their modern combat system. So, it's real-time action RPG stuff, as opposed to turn-based. I think it's probably meaning it's a little more... somewhere in the middle, I would guess, between what 15 was and what 7 Remake was. Because 7 Remake had a lot of nods back to being turn-based and you being able to pull up menus and do things that way, whilst still being a real-time combat if you wanted it to. And I think this is going to be somewhere in the middle of those two styles. Hopefully slightly less teleporting around all over the place like there was in 15. But they also seem to show this stuff where the screen seems to simplify and you just end up with 2 life bars at the top of the screen, and then it seems like summons just fight each other. And it's like, is it basically got kaiju mode? Is that what this is? But with Final Fantasy summons.
I mean, that's kind of like what 10 did, right?
Yeah,
you bring the summon in, and then your team just goes away for a while.
And the
basically,
it's been done a few times. I think that happens in 13 as well, and how 13 handles its summons. In 15, I want to say those summons were a bit more just like coincidental. Things just happened.
Right.
Might have done it in 12 as well, thinking about it, having that sort of system. Yeah. But it's hard to know what that actually means and how that actually plays out, whether it's something you opt into or those were just like boss fight moments. Yeah, we don't really know enough. And it was also one of those rubbishy Japanese RPG trailers, unfortunately, where there's like clips of cutscenes and fights going on, like interspersed with non-contextual random bits of dialogue that make no sense.
Everything out of context, yeah.
Yeah, so that's a shame.
They always do that, though.
They always do that, yeah.
Yeah. So would it be like how does that work in other games? You summon your summon, and then they automatically summon theirs, and they just have an individual battle?
What, your summon? Yeah, well, yeah, I don't know.
Summons.
Like, well, normally you would... it effectively just took over what it replaced your party, effectively.
Right.
So, and I think they've done variants on it in the past where like the person who summoned it would actually still be there as well, but effectively only your summon is doing the attacking.
Fighting the boss or whatever.
Yeah, and they had their own health pool, which was temporary and things like that. And some of them had like a time mechanic, so the summon could only be out for a certain amount of time before it disappeared, or a certain number of actions, something like that. And then, but yeah, while your creatures were out, once your Pokemon were in the battlefield, they would be fighting instead of you. Which was a useful way to like tank damage at times. It's like, oh, I'll just put my summon out to take all this damage. Sorry, mate. But there was often, long cooldowns on that stuff, so that was the trade-off. Yeah.
Wisely, right? Judiciously.
Yeah. Final Fantasy 16, summer 2023.
Okay.
So a little ways off yet. But that's fine. It means it gets out of the way of Forspoken, which is still coming out later this year. Probably some sensible scheduling there from Squeenix. That was all the stuff I picked out of the State of Play. Then we got Summer Game Fests, their own show, hosted by Jeff Keighley. I'm going to cut down my list here of stuff, which is already quite cut down from what they showed. They showed quite a few things, but it suffered a little bit from being one of those shows where there are a lot of CG only trailers, and I'm left thinking, I don't know what this game is, or it's hard to be excited about this because it's just a trailer of horror or people with guns or some generic game scene here. So I found the whole show a little hard to get interested in, which is a shame because it's probably not any kind of reflection on what the actual games are like.
Because there just isn't enough of them to show.
Yeah, that's just the style of trailer they showed to put. They chose to put in this thing, because it's like even like Flashback 2 was here. You remember Flashback from the Amiga
from the 90s.
days?
Yeah.
They're making a sequel, like a proper sequel.
Okay.
And it was one of those trailers where it was like there was actually gameplay in it, but it was sort of stylized to the point where the gameplay was appearing on surfaces that were moving around to form this other graphical thing, so you couldn't really see the game properly in it. And it's like, that's a shame. I mean, it's Flashback.
I guess that does seem kind of in keeping with the weirdness of Flashback, though. Maybe
I don't know. Like, just show me some 2D running from something. That's what Flashback was, right?
Yeah.
And shooting some guy. So we got to see a bit of that. across the whole events that we've seen American Arcadia pop up time and time again. This seems to be this year's We're in Every Show game. So American Arcadia is effectively the Truman Show. There's been this television show with a fake city themed on the 70s that's been running for since the 70s, and the city is still like the 70s, but it's a hacker is trying to help a guy called Trevor escape the city and discover his real life, or to have a real life. It's the Truman Show
in game form,
which isn't a terrible idea for a game.
No,
honestly.
not at all.
It seems fine. It seems okay. It's sort of split into 2D platformy bits where you're Trevor running away effectively, and sort of spy 3D sections, a little bit like the Abstergo stuff, I guess, in the early Assassin's Creed games, where it's in the TV station where the hacker is trying to sneak around and do spy things to figure out the next plan and stuff like that. So it's a split narrative kind of thing.
Interesting.
Seems all right. Yeah, I'm going to skip a load of this because Naughty Dog were there.
Oh yeah,
and they had some Last of Us news, but maybe not the Last of Us news you were hoping for. For one thing, they spent quite a lot of time on the TV show that HBO are making,
right?
With Pedro Pascal as Joel.
Cool, good casting.
I mean, the casting seems neat. Actually, this thing might actually be all right. There's some hope around this, but yeah, they spent loads of time on that. And
the Uncharted film was kind of by the numbers, so
yeah, maybe.
Let's hope they do better with a TV show.
It's got HBO.
Yeah, it's HBO. So,
but yeah, their next game is going to be in the Last of Us series. Is going to be a multiplayer only thing. And it's so I don't really know what that is yet. They're a little vague about explaining what it is, but
it's just going to be like the Uncharted multiplayer, but in Last of Us.
Yeah, probably.
Because it pretty much translates almost exactly the same sort of.
I mean, be stealthy, get up behind the enemy team, stab them in the back,
and weird crafting of weapons on the battlefield.
Yeah,
that's happened in Uncharted as well at a certain point.
I never really got into the Uncharted multiplayer. I think I tried it for a bit. And then in Uncharted 3, I think, fell off it pretty quick. Wasn't for me. But those games do have a bit of Naughty Dog's multiplayer offerings have always had a little bit of a cult following that have stuck with them.
But to make it a whole game is slightly more of a risk, rather than just a mode in a game.
100%, yeah.
Unless it's like a 20 quid or free to play.
I mean, I kind of doubt it when Naughty Dog's involved, but maybe. But yeah, maybe a cheaper title makes sense. So there's that. But they're also confirmed the rumors that Last of Us, the first Last of Us game, is getting a more of a
remake.
Yeah, it's more. It's sort of halfway between remake and remaster. They're calling it Last of Us Part 1, and it's a shot for shot and area for area remake, but it is almost ground up built. It's a bit more like the Demon Souls remake, I guess, that Blue Point did, in that it's the same game, but it's kind of been redone. It's raising so many questions, like, did this really need to be done, especially after the PS4 remaster was decent at just sharpening everything up a little bit, making it 60 FPS. It's like, yeah, technology has moved on since they did that, and this is going to be, obviously for PS5 and stuff like that, and they're using their new animation tech, and they're using their new graphics tech and things like that to sharpen everything up even more. But
is
was
that
it
really needed?
Hugely necessary? Yeah, I don't know. Like, I guess they're doing minor tweaks to some of the shots, so like to stage them better or make things more visible. maybe make it fit in with what they want to do next in the series. I don't know. It's
Let's just hope they don't do something stupid and fuck with it. Do
Well-
a Joel shot first.
well, they have sort. Well, I mean, that was sort of true anyway.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, that's a Star Wars reference.
But they had already said that there are some gameplay tweaks going into this, so it's not a 100% faithful thing. It's not intended to be that. In the show, they mentioned that they've done tweaks to the AI and elements like that. Presumably, I guess, from what they've learnt from Part 2 and Uncharted, and so bring that new tech back in. So it won't play the same. So if you're a real Last of Us fan, I guess you'll go in for this. But for everyone else, you may have already played this twice, and this might not be that interesting.
Yeah.
But they're going hard. And they also alluded to having another, because of course they would, they have another project, a super secret project in the works that no one has managed to leak yet. So they're happy about that.
Good work. Okay. I mean, they've got to have a plan for what to do next after those series.
Yeah. But they did say that they've been able to scale up since Last of Us Part 2 came out because of its success. So then they are now a even bigger studio and can now run multiple projects at once, which is something they've stayed away from in the past.
Yeah, so that allows them to do that remake and the
remake
full
and the
tilt on-
multiplayer game and whatever secret project they're working on.
Yeah. Still keep the quality up for each.
That's the hope.
That's the dream.
That's the dream, man.
Cool.
So that was Summer Games Fest. Devolver were back with their element of madness in the marketing countdown to marketing. It was a bit more smaller scale than some of their previous productions, but it was still pretty good. It had Suda51 as a mech.
Okay.
Which is kind of madness. A few things to pick out from here. Like these were definitely more interesting games, I think, than some of the stuff. But Devolver, that's what they do. They pick out the weird. The developers of Broforce are putting out a new game called Angerfoot, which I think is a fantastic name because it seems to be a very fast-paced shooter, 3D shooter, with an emphasis on kicking stuff.
Angerfoot.
Just getting your foot out there.
That's cool.
cool.
Kinda, but without it's not a gravity boot this time or whatever that was.
Well, you don't know that yet.
Oh, well, maybe there is a gravity boot, yeah.
Boot upgrades.
Boot mods. Yeah, it looked kind of nuts. Stood out. We've got The Plucky Squire was my next pick. That seems to be picking up quite a lot of love on Twitter, it seems. Because they did, it's not the first game to do this, but they did a neat thing where at the start of the trailer, it looked like a platformer being played out inside a book. And it's like, this feels very familiar. This has been done a few times recently, in fact. But they do the thing where you suddenly break out of the book and then you're in it's like you've discovered a whole new world, and it's like, you're in the real world as it becomes a 3D platformer. But then there's sections where you can jump back into the 2D worlds of the things you encounter, like the graphics on those items and stuff like that. There'll be little adventures within them. And it's like, this actually looks kind of a bit more to it than I was expecting. Nice.
Cool.
Kind of got that sort of stuff that was it Mario Odyssey does at times where you go into 2D mode, picture that.
Oh yeah,
but
yeah,
with
that's cool.
But with different scenarios for each one of the sort of 2D things you're going into.
Mix up the gameplay with different 2D scenarios.
Yeah, looks neat. And then if you hadn't had enough of indie skateboarding titles. This one might be at least a little different. It's called Skate Story, and you play a demon made out of glass, and in a sort of really odd, sort of very dark world, like but where you're chasing giant gemstones around as this dude made of glass. Super stylish looking thing. No idea whether it's like. I assume it's like story driven as opposed to being like a hardcore skate sim like session. Or
Seems that way.
but
It's got made of glass.
Yeah, it's got a real. It's a standout look. Definitely have it. Definitely check it out.
What was the other one with the? Oh no, that wasn't skating. It was inline skates, right? With the kind of that looked like Sable.
Yeah, the sort of.
What's it called?
Sort of cell shady. That was Rollerdrome.
Rollerdrome, yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of that kind of thing going on at the moment.
Just hold out for Bomb Rush, obviously.
When is that coming out?
We don't know. They're still saying this year, but they haven't committed to a hard date yet.
Right, yeah.
So that was the Devolver show. They were my picks from that. The Epic Games Store did their own show, which I'm not sure they've done before. A couple of picks from that. We got to see a new Lord of the Rings game. Deep Rock Galactic. No, not quite. It was called Lord of the Rings: Return to Moria, where you play as a squad of dwarves,
mining, right?
Kinda, yeah, and trying to get back to. You'll have to forgive my lore knowledge. Is it Khazad-dûm?
Khazad-dûm, it just is the same thing as Moria. I think it's just in the dwarf language it's Khazad-dûm, but it means it's the same thing. It's the same name as Moria.
Yeah, so it seems to be about dwarfs trying to get back to their homeland, I guess, or home cave, or groundland.
Yeah, because they keep having to abandon Moria because of the fucking Balrog.
That's inconvenient.
Yeah, annoying. But yeah, that would be cool if they rip off Durg.
Yeah, there did seem to be quite a lot of just pickaxes in the wall action. It might be alright. I think it's the thing that might put us off from playing it might be that I think it's leaning a little bit into that shared world, craft and survive style of game, which is becoming bigger and bigger, right? Like playing games like Space Engineers in multiplayer, for instance, or Nightingale, which was also mentioned a few times. That seems to be a game that's going that direction as well. So it might not be persistent, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. Like something that has world persistence, where I kind of like Deep Rock's just get in, get out runs.
Yeah.
Still, caught my eye at least. Dwarves. Goat Simulator 3 is coming out this year, and I didn't realize they made a Goat Simulator 2.
Because they didn't. That's the joke.
Is that the joke? Okay.
Because it's the Dead Island 2 trailer that they ripped off.
It is, yeah.
So they called it Goat Simulator 3, obviously.
Okay. I'm not sure if that's a great joke.
Well, and also just because, make it free when you haven't made it. I mean, they did plenty of DLC for 1, which you could argue might as well have been 2.
They did loads. There's going to be another Goat Simulator.
I mean, that was fairly inevitable.
I mean, I'm surprised it's
taken this long.
I mean, if two didn't happen,
a long time.
It's been a real long time. I've still got all that raw footage from the time I played it and recorded a load of it in the thought that I might make a video out of it someday. I won't. I'll just have that footage forever.
Well, maybe you can find a way to splice it into footage of the new game at some point.
Yeah, can you tell the difference? We got another little look at that Disney kart racer as well, that I still think looks pretty good. It's really low on the Fantasy League's hype level, I noticed, but it's they showed off a silver screen track where you drive into a cinema screen and everything's black and white, like vintage Mickey Mouse kind of area. Yeah, it's a kart racer, but this looks like it might be a good one.
How badly are they going to fuck up the free-to-play model?
Yeah, that is the big question, because it is free.
We all know what happened with Chocobo Racing, because that wasn't free-to-play, and yet it still tried to be.
Somehow is, yeah. At the same time, it's except without the free part.
Yeah, exactly. It was a free-to-play model in a very not free game.
It's another Square getting Final Fantasy wrong with microtransactions thing. Ugh. I mean, the gameplay was probably all right? Has anyone actually talked about the gameplay in Chocobo Racing?
I think people said it was fine.
Okay. Just overshadowed by the model.
Yeah.
So that was the Epic show. Shout out to the Tribeca Games show, because I like the way they did things in that show. Mm-hmm. I've only picked out one game from it, and it's a game we've seen before. But I kind of like they took a slower approach to this show rather than just be like trailer. They took the time to actually explain what the game is, and then perhaps spent a little too much time talking to the developers about the game. But the slower approach, I think, worked, because it's like, right, no, I understand what this is now. I understand what you're going for. Thank you. Rather than just showing me pictures and flashy stuff, I now actually know what you're trying to do. That's great. Just, you don't have. You could probably cut a good third off the length of the segments, and it would still be fine. But yeah, shout out for doing it slightly differently. The game I want to pick out is the one we've seen before, called Thirsty Suitors, and it's the one about I say the one where you're effectively you're a girl of Indian heritage, returning to her hometown, classic style, and meeting people, and you're a bit of a hot mess. You've had bad relationships in the past, and you're meeting several of them, and your mum's trying to set you up. So get prepared for angsty argument battles and cook-offs. Yeah.
Sounds dramatic.
It's got a real style to it. It looks pretty cool.
Cool. What's it called?
Thirsty Suitors.
Thirsty Suitors. Lol. That sounds great.
It's decent. Yeah. If there's one thing you watch behind the Tribeca stuff, go watch that. That game looks decent. And the final thing that I think's happened before the Xbox thing. Sorry if I've missed any of the shows. There's been a lot of them in quick succession. I watched as many as I could. Was the Future Games show returned.
Oh yeah,
and I've actually picked out quite a bit from this, because there's quite a lot of these are definitely not AAA titles, but in a way that makes them more interesting. These are like middle ground indies, like not super tiny, not super big, and as a result, there's quite a lot of interesting stuff here, at least to me. I think we've talked about it before, but there's a game being made called Outpost that has absolutely nothing to do with the ancient turn-based strategy games Outpost and Outpost 2. Well, I think it's got nothing to do with it, but because this trailer actually looks like it's a first-person shooter RTS hybrid game, and it's like, oh, that's interesting.
CNC Renegade.
Or maybe what was it, Battlezone, I guess.
Oh yeah, Battlezone, yeah.
But that was Hover. Yeah, I guess you could go on foot on that as well. They showed more of the FPS stuff than they did the RTS stuff, but there definitely were some shots in that where it looked RTS-y, and it's like, well, this is interesting.
Incoming.
God, but those were like very specific sections, weren't they?
Obviously, yeah.
To the point where they actually had a specific setting in Incoming where you could say, I don't want to play those.
Yeah.
You could just play the game without any of that. Looks kind of cool. Looks pretty interesting. The team behind Cat Dog Puzzler Fogs are making a downhill racer called Tray Racers. Not Ray Tracers, Tray Racers.
Mm-hmm.
It's quite confusing. That's due out next year. And it's got the similar sort of blown out color palette that Fogs had, but also has that kind of grotesque Nickelodeon vibe going in its character designs. If you remember, like how like they used to draw children in like Rugrats and was it Rocket Power? Was that a show? Was that a Nickelodeon show?
Yeah, that was a show. Yeah,
I'm getting those sorts of vibes from how the kids look in this, and it's like I don't know if I like that, but
it's kind of a weird look.
But it's a look. Also, the game looks kind of fun. It's just like sliding down sand dunes on trays and stuff happens around you. It looks kind of cool.
Great glacial spoon racer.
Yeah.
Inspired.
Robo Beat is I'm going to make a mention too. We did see a little bit of Metal Hellsinger, I think in the SGF show, which is that rhythm shooter, Doom-like rhythm shooter where the actions you take have to happen on the beat and they're to be effective, which has got a hell of a soundtrack behind it by the sounds of it. But this, which is coming out later this year and looks pretty cool. But Robo Beat seems to be the same idea, but they've gone in a neon-soaked EDM direction. So shout out to them for doing the same thing, but twisting it up enough that it looks fun. That caught my eye. Morbid Metal, a roguelite character action game. So you want your Bayonetta or Devil May Cry style combat, you got it, and now you get it in roguelite form. It looked good. It looked a bit early, but it looked good. And now possibly these next two games are probably my picks of the show so far. Turbo Golf Racing. Get hype. What if Rocket League was golf?
Yeah. Okay.
That is exactly what this is. It's like you're driving a car, hitting a massive ball down a massive golf course, and it's a race to get your ball to the end. And there's like loads of people doing it at the same time, so there's balls everywhere. It looks great. It honestly looks great.
Cool. Is that a little similar to that Mario Golf mode where you have to chase the ball down the...
Yeah, kind of, but you're in cars.
Down the fairway, but you're in cars, yeah. How do you... And then you find your own ball again and try to get it.
Yeah. But I don't think there's any sort of like you have to wait for it to stop or anything like that. It's just like, just keep going, just keep whacking it. It's Rocket League.
Right, you could aerial it as it's coming down if you...
Yeah, they didn't show too... There are some flight mechanics. They didn't show it being quite so rockety as Rocket League, but maybe they're holding some of that back for now, or maybe they have to make limits to that to make it so you can't just dribble it immediately into the hole if you're really good.
Cool.
But yeah, that really caught my eye. I was like sort of giggling to myself a little bit when I saw this. Like, hee, this looks sweet. It's going into early access in August, and is on Game Pass, so I will probably be checking that out. And the next one looked real interesting as well. So since Portal happened and Portal 2 happened, there's been a number of attempts to try and match it, right? I guess the one we played that got closest was maybe Cube, to sort of capturing that Portal essence. You played that, didn't you, Zach?
Yeah.
So this is a similar sort of thing, like puzzle platformer, first-person-y sort of thing, but where the main mechanic this time is Link's the time sweeper and can move stuff about in time with your gun instead of making portals. And the gun is the thing that talks to you in a humorous AI voice, as opposed to being the antagonist. But maybe it is the antagonist, who knows?
Well, I never got round to playing that semi-official mod of Portal 2, whatever it's called, Portal Reloaded.
Oh, right, yeah.
It's the time travel portal.
Yeah.
I should probably get round to that at some point, maybe.
I've seen a speed run of that. That looks good.
But that was more like that's literally Portal, but with time travel rather than a game based around time travel.
It's there's like two different versions of the same level at the same time, right? Is what it really means. So shout out to the Entropy Center. It's got a cool plot line as well. The idea is that they're trying to figure out how to gain enough energy through these experiments that they can turn back time on the entire planet Earth, which is now reaching 1 million degrees centigrade and is exploding. So it's to save the Earth by turning its entire timeline backwards.
Yeah, all the way back to when things were not exploding.
Yeah, looks good. It's out later this year.
Cool.
Yeah, I think I'll skip over a few things here. They're making there was quite a few simulators turned up in this show, but the beer making simulator might have been the
highlight. Yeah,
I mean, it's an annoying one, right? Because it's like, why would I make a beer that I can't drink?
But you learn how to do it.
I guess.
So not really.
Yeah. I mean,
simulators never totally succeed.
I think it's got a fairly accurate. I mean, they show bits like where there's a checklist of the steps you have to go through, and it's like, and then you can advance time on a calculator. Like, how long? Like, let's go a month. Let's let it brew for a month, and it's like, yeah, I suppose that's accurate. But I want to drink it. Some good looking beer. There's a one for Zach here. There's another sort of transport tycoon style game coming. That's just called Sweet Transit. Sweet Transit. It's like that's a great name.
How does it look?
I mean, it's not really about how those games look, is it? It had rails, and you made train lines and things like that. And, it's one of those. It looked like you were connecting resources together to transit things. The transport game.
Just seems like that genre was kind of perfected so long ago.
Yeah.
But maybe not perfected, but yeah.
I mean, I have to admit, this didn't look too different. If that's, I don't know whether that's a good or a bad thing.
I guess we'll see how sweet it is.
They're making a Moomin game. Snufkin, Melody of Moomin Valley.
Seems like it's taken a long time for that to happen, really.
Yeah.
I mean, I bet there has been some like ancient NES game or something in the 80s.
Almost certainly. Yeah, there must be something from the time Moomin was still on TV, right?
Yeah, guaranteed. There's several old Moomin games, I'm sure.
I mean, this looked Moomin-y, so it's got that going for it. The art style's neat. It's not about you being a Moomin, though. You're the character called Snufkin, who's like...
You're the other character.
Yeah, you're in the Moomin world. Moomins will feature.
Well, maybe, yes. One would hope. But will there be a comet that's about to destroy the planet?
I do not know. Snufkin seems to dislike rules. That's all I can tell you. So maybe the rules of the comet can be broken. Finally, I think I'd heard about this before, but it's still, I couldn't quite believe my eyes when I saw this next one. It's a little game called, with a very inauspicious name, Pal World.
Pal World?
Yeah, P-A-L World.
P-A-L, okay.
And I think someone's made the open world Pokemon game you want, and then given everything guns.
What?
It is the weirdest thing.
Okay.
And I can't quite work out if that's amazing or not.
So have they got your own its own set of creatures that you collect and train?
Very Pokemon-like looking creatures, yeah.
Okay. But they have machine guns?
At some points, yes, they do. There was even some massive thing that seemed to open its like flippery arms, and there were just rocket launchers, like a mech, like mech hanging out underneath its arms.
Oh, dude, that's crazy.
It is weird looking. It's got that sort of like... It's another one of those games that actually seems to feature that sort of like hyper-real look as well. Was it Dokev, the Korean game that showed up for the last few years or something? The sort of Korean dance party Pokemon sort of game. It looks very similar to that, actually, in some ways. That sort of the way the lighting works, that sort of look, you know. Yeah, just go watch that thing. I can't fathom this. It's strange. There's just a shot where there's just a load of like sheep like Pokemon like behind some sandbags with like mounted guns. It's like, what is going on here?
Bizarre.
These cute ass sheep are firing at me.
That's very Worms, yeah.
Well, it's like they showed some gameplay, and it is like it seems to play like a third-person shooter. Like you're just
really?
dude in like this Pokemon army.
Oh, do you have control of a?
You have control
Pokemon,
of a guy.
or
It seems
a guy. Okay, with a gun.
with guns. Yeah.
Okay, and you're fighting these Pokemon, but some are on your side. Or?
So, yeah, I think so. I think
In an open world. Yeah,
I have no idea. Yeah, it looks fairly open.
Bizarre.
What a weird thing. Definitely go look that up. Even if you don't care, just go look up. It's like you just got to see this. It's like it breaks me
Japanese or is it
slightly.
Western.
And that's the news.
Well, I guess you did miss the IGN one, but whatever.
Oh,
not much anything to talk about. The only reason I wanted to mention it because in the vein of maybe IGN fucking up how they're showing Sonic Frontiers, I felt like I very briefly skimmed through this from the IGN video, but like it seems like they kind of fucked that up as well, but in a different way because I think they're doing a bad thing for the developers in that they've gotten videos for by clustering together similar games. Because when you see videos of like 3 different basically Stardew clones, it becomes very forgettable.
Definitely. I mean, you get I don't know if Wholesome have done a show yet. Like, right? There's usually last couple of years there's been like the Wholesome game show, right?
Right. Yeah.
And I think you end up falling into a bit of a hole even with that, even when they're not the same games, like because they're also like feel goody, emotional or not, or just like happy friendly titles. They end up sort of blending together a little too much. Or this year's Eurovision, for instance, with the ballad segment, all the ballads became one.
Yeah, all smushed together. Yeah,
I'm kind of with you. I can see why they would do that, because it's like, oh, you like FPSs, right? Here's a load of them
that you want.
But I think I think for a successful show, you need a bit of a rise and fall and a bit of movement in your genres.
I mean, I feel like if you're the developer of a game like that, and you're put right next to 2 other games that look almost identical, that probably is really annoying.
Yeah. What is your standout feature then?
Yeah.
Like, you're going to really struggle to get that
especially
across.
Because in a lot of trailers like that, the graphics is the thing, because you can't really show gameplay that easily in a trailer.
No. I mean, you can actually try and show gameplay rather than CG, which is
but
one thing.
When it's a Stardew Valley-esque pixel art thing, it's just like, here's the pixel art of this game, and that's...
Yeah, it's the nuance is lost, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely a few of those that were shown in the other shows. I don't know if they showed up in the IGN ones as well, right? But I kind of skipped over those. There was definitely a couple of Stardew-y looking things. Farming.
Yeah.
There be farms. Cult of the Lamb seems to turn up quite a lot as well. Is that like by the Don't Starve people? It looks a lot like Don't Starve. He's sort of...
I don't think so.
No? Is it someone trying to just do that style?
Maybe.
Anywho, that game seems to turn up at like every marketing event. It's like it's everywhere. Calm down, guys. Calm down. Have I left anything out? Has there been any other interesting news?
Do we want to talk about Giant Bomb, given that like this podcast is pretty inspired by the Bombcast back in the day?
Pretty directly by the original Bombcast crew.
Yeah.
And now the last one of those original crew members has left Giant Bomb for reasons unknown.
Yeah, Jeff Gersman is still a threat, I guess.
He's still a threat. He's still doing stuff. He
started a Patreon.
Yeah.
He's going to make a ton of money out of that, I expect.
Oh,
he
I'm sure.
In exact proportion to how much less Giant Bombs are going to make, presumably.
Probably.
Yeah.
All those subscribers are going to stop on that side and just move over to this other one.
Like, I really don't have a problem with the new Giant Bomb crew. I think they're all right. Like, but they're not the original crew. Like, to me, right? There was a chemistry there that isn't quite matched these days, and it's like they're all right. I think like I really get on with Jan and Jason in particular. They're great, but Dr. Hockey. But yeah, it's Giant Bomb is now no longer any of the members that Giant Bomb was known for. That's the problem.
But there was another announcement of a joiner to Giant Bomb.
Yes,
Dan Reichert, as creative director, is returning to Giant Bomb.
I mean, he's not an original member, but he's a key part of Giant Bomb's middle years. So it's good that he's back.
I guess that's how they're kind of trying to get some continuity going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's been off doing his own thing for a few years now, and
lots of wrestling stuff, I think.
Yeah, he was big on that, and he has been running his own sort of gamey thing on the side for a long time. That's been marginally well received, I say. Marginally, and then that's a bit harsh.
The rest of the original crew, or some of them, have their Nextlander streaming, right? Which isn't like a big website like Giant Bomb was, but it is. Yeah,
it's pretty low key.
I think I saw that they learned that Jeff had left Giant Bomb like live on stream because they were streaming, doing Alex playing Mass Effect, and it popped up in their chat. That was kind of interesting.
That might be fun to watch.
Yeah,
because I only saw it on Twitter the day he was leaving. And I don't often reply to things on Twitter, but this time was just the one occasion where all I typed was "What?"
Yeah.
So all the conspiracy theories are clearly true. That he was only he was forced into staying on for a certain number more months after the contracts and everyone else left, and then he got out. Clearly, it's all true.
Is that I mean, it could be true, right?
I don't know. I think he's just
with CBS.
I think he's doing what is becoming an increasingly common thing amongst games journalists, that they get a family, and that seems to really mess with their ability to do their jobs.
I guess, but he clearly plans to do his own thing and make it a success, I guess.
Yeah. So,
and his job in like recent times in Giant Bomb had changed a lot anyway.
Sure.
Yeah. I think he had to do a lot of management stuff and he was sick of it. That's what I get the impression.
I bet.
Yeah. Now he doesn't have to do any of that. And he did a Twitch stream and then started a podcast, by putting the audio of that up. And like, it's quite funny how that's like already like number 5 in the iTunes charts or whatever.
Is it really?
Yeah. It's called like the Jeff Gersman Show, and it has like a startled picture of him, like a really like cool, like stupid, like, art compared to all the professional art of all the podcasts. It looks really weird.
Right.
It's like orange. And then guess what the subtitles or tagline of the podcast is?
Large explosive.
A podcast about video games.
Hey. This is a podcast about video games. This is the Saladcast.
That's what he says.
Stolen our damn tagline again.
Stolen our tagline. Oh well, never mind. Yeah. So we shall see. I don't know. I mean, it seems like him on his own talking to the mic. He's going to need some guests and things to make that work long term.
Sure.
But yeah, interesting times.
Good luck to you, Jeff.
Yeah.
You're a legend. Get back to the science. That's what we really want. Get back to the science of fighting games.
That would just be. Would just become his like guest feature on Giant Bomb. Whenever he comes back to town, it's like let's knock out a few more fighting games.
Just get Ben and Jason in to talk about the science. They need the full list. They need to get back to the ranking. That's the important bit.
It's like serendipitous, but there's a bunch of Street Fighter 6 news at the moment, so he's talking heavily about. I
accidentally missed that Street Fighter 6. Yeah. With an open worldy bit. Street Fighter 6 has a roamy world part.
I mean, it's mandatory now.
Bit.
All games have to have overworld.
Yeah, but fighting games?
Street Fighter, yeah.
I don't know. I can't think of like a pure fighting game do that before.
No,
it's cool.
New.
Also, I quite like the look of this one. Something about Street Fighter V wasn't all that appealing, but they've sort of gone more. The more I look at this, like they've gone more realistic, I think, with their art style.
Yeah.
Like they're not in that.
Yeah, they have.
Street Fighter V felt like a bit too in a sort of middle ground, weird place. Like it wasn't quite as stylized as Street Fighter 4, but was still a bit stylized, and as a result, it didn't really work. Whereas I think that they seem to be like just dropping a lot of the style here in terms of like the 3D world, and maybe they had to make it work for the roamy bit. Maybe that's why it looks as it looks, but I kind of like how it looks. I don't know. Everyone's wide, but aside from that,
yeah, it's definitely got a cool look.
And they fixed their logo.
Not out next year though. It's not until like 2023 or something.
No, I think it's quite a way off. Yeah,
but it looked like pretty ready to go in a lot of ways with what they've shown.
Sure,
and with the characters they have, I suppose they'll just have to add and balance. Like
that's the thing. I don't think they want to have make the same mistake they did with Street Fighter V, which launched with next to no content. Right, it had a basic lineup of characters, but like nothing around the edges. And it's I think they've learned from it. It looks like they've learned from that, and it's like let's put a fully featured product out. And for the love of God, please do that. Just don't hold things back. Just don't hold things back behind after launch. Like launch with everything you want there, and hold back characters for DLC because I know you'll do that, and that's fine. But also, this new thing is interesting. I don't know. I like the idea of it. I like the idea.
Yeah, it's certainly looking hopeful.
If it helps, like an absolute Street Fighter novice like myself learn it, then maybe I'm in. Street Fighter. I've always found Street Fighter so impenetrable. It's like I want to be somewhat competent at it, but it just requires a level of discipline I've never had. And it's like perhaps if this mode acts as a way of training you, then that can only be a good thing.
Absolutely.
It's Street Fighter, man.
Street Fighter. All right. We're done with news. That was quite
loads of news. It's June.
Yeah, plenty of news. It's Junemas.
And there'll be even more of it next time because
hopefully
maybe not more in terms of volume, but there'll be more news because Xbox is happening right now.
And we'll find out all about it. All right then. Time for what you've been playing. I think Zach, you better tell us what you've been up to.
Not much really.
Rob's done the news.
That's the main thing. Nothing except a reasonable amount of Dirge, I guess.
Me
trying to grind my way through season 2, I don't know. I haven't gone into full grind mode yet. I'm not just doing 4 egg hunts for maximum efficiency yet.
Right.
I'm just trying to do whatever I need to do to clear the season missions, and I'm still trying to get all the cores every week or whatever when the weekly core hunt thing comes up, and the deep dive if I can be bothered with that. The deep dive this week was kind of ridiculous as well. The regular deep dive. I haven't even done an elite one because they're too hard to do solo anyway.
Do you reckon they're doable with 2, or is it like a full squad style hard?
Well, I don't know, because the problem is, of course, the level scaling. Like even the jump between solo and 2 is actually quite severe. Like you wouldn't have thought you would imagine it was like smooth, but it's not. It's like the jump between just by yourself and any multiplayer at all is actually fairly significant.
What's that in terms of volume of stuff that appears?
Yeah,
right. I guess I've never played solo still, so it's...
And I mean, there is some damage scaling as well, so stuff does get extra health even with only 2 people.
Right.
But yeah, it's just that, like, you know, the elite deep dive starts at hazard 4 and gets harder. So, and I could only
right, and we've never played a 5.
No, and I've tried an elite deep dive once and then died immediately, but that was mainly because it was an elimination mission on the first level.
Oh god!
So I was just like, I wasn't really, and that was ages ago, so I hadn't really unlocked all the equipment and prepared myself for elimination. If I did it nowadays, I'd probably be fine because I'd be using the engineer with this grenade launcher of death.
The railgun
I'd
effect.
probably be fine at level 4, but then by the time you get to the last stage, the Elite Deep 5s, and you're actually in, effectively Hazard 5 plus a bit, then that's going to be real difficult. But yeah, the one this week, the regular deep dive this week, was very nearly screwed me immediately because it was just like the first mission was a point extraction. So just that's easy. Just especially when you're in solo, obviously, as I said before, it's just just send the robot out to get the stuff and just bring it back to the middle. But the terrain generation had you had the collection platform in the middle of this big open room, but on either side of the platform there was just vertical drop pits that I immediately accidentally ran into and nearly died. But luckily, because I was the engineer, I shot a platform under myself and it negated almost all of the fall damage.
Nice.
So I didn't die, but then I was in a big hole. That's well, now I have to get out of that hole,
which is a huge problem.
But it wasn't a fairly ridiculous bit of terrain generation to just have, and because I didn't it was pretty much I just ran straight into it because it was just it was just over a lip, and I was just
right. It's oh no!
As I was trying to fight off the massive shit that always happens at the start of point extractions and egg hunts, where you drop into a big room and everything's that's there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I got that. I got through that. It was the goddamn fungus bogs, which one of the more annoying environments. Actually, the last part of that deep dive was also quite annoying because it was a shield disruption. And in the fungus bogs, where there's bunches of poisonous gas all over the place, so you're constantly taking damage. You're constantly getting shipped away by having to run past all these goddamn stinky mushrooms.
Wait, shield disruption, is that like a mini version of the Caretaker? Or
no, shield disruption is the one where you don't have shields.
Oh, sorry, the modifier. Yeah. Right, not the mission type. Got you.
It was quite
that kind of sucks.
Quite annoying. And also because if you're doing a shield disruption in a normal mission, you can set yourself for it by setting all your buffs to the health version rather than the shield version. But because it's the end of the deep dive and you
don't know,
you don't know that, and you've already pre-built yourself for the regular missions. That made it quite difficult right at the end. And at the start, I did briefly think I was going to be able to make it on the 45-minute achievement. But that last level was a salvage mission with shield disruption. I was like, I'm never going to make it. I'm never going to do this fast.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to be real careful. And there was a bolt detonator in that mission as well.
God.
Luckily, it spawned miles away, so I just sniped it with the grenade launcher.
Okay.
I was like, that's good.
That must look pretty cool, taking one of those out at range.
Yeah. You actually see the whole explosion.
Yeah.
But bolt detonators on salvage missions are always the worst, especially in solo, because someone has to stay in the zone, and then if a bolt detonator walks up to you, what the fuck do you do?
Got no choice.
You have to leave.
Yeah.
And then even if you kill it, there's now a giant crater on top of the point where you have to stand. So yeah, that's that. That's Borderg was the main thing that I played, I guess.
Borderg.
And then a bit of Rocket League. And I very briefly went into Oxygen Not Included because Clay is doing their summer thing where they basically just time updates for all of their games.
Okay. Yeah.
So there was an update for Oxygen Not Included, which introduced a couple of new animals and a few other random things, but mainly seemed to be here's some optimizations and bug fixes. And I was like, hell yeah, optimizations. But doesn't really save me on my ancient ass computer.
Right.
It's running at normal speed, you gain 5 to 10 more frames per second, but every other speed it's still in garbage down.
I mean, 5 to 10 frames, that's not a small improvement. That's pretty decent.
But the problem is you want to be able to speed it up. You don't want to be sitting there at normal speed, you want to be able to be speeding through things. Which you can still do. The game, the frame rate is not tied to the game update rate exactly.
Right.
It's sacrificing frames to update the game essentially.
I see, yeah.
So you can still run it at triple speed if you need to get through things, but you'll be watching a 5 frames per second.
Yeah, your ability to react is decreased because you can't see
you
can't see a good portion of the time that's passing.
And you can't really follow it or anything. If you try and scroll the camera while you're in that lower frame rate, it gets real janky.
That can't be easy.
So you basically just have to like set your camera up and then speed up for a while and then go back to normal speed where you actually need to interact with it anyway. But yeah, I guess getting some frames back is good on normal speed.
How do you feel about that new Rocket League season? Was it the luxurious season?
Well, yeah, like the film premiere season, I guess.
The gaudy season. As they described some of their items, it's like gaudy items.
I mean,
lots of gold.
As if
probably.
all the items in Rocket League weren't already gaudy.
Yeah, I guess. I hope they nail it a little better than... Because cartoon season ended up being a little disappointing, so I'm hoping that they land this one a little better. A little stronger.
I mean,
Stick to the theme, damn it.
the last two haven't been that great.
No.
The Wild West-ish season.
Yeah, but at least we got a new arena out of that one. But, I mean,
technically we are the one, except not, because it's just Mega
It's a
Neo Tokyo, but reskin.
it's a reskin. Yeah, it's a bad reskin. I suppose we're getting Gilded Utopia this time, so not truly a
Yeah,
new
another
environment,
reskin.
but like a slightly modified environment. I'm still like, I haven't quite hit the end of. Only got a couple days left in the damn season, and I haven't quite hit the level target.
I know.
So I'm gonna have to grind that out a bit over the next couple days. Was it Tuesday's the last day, isn't it? So yeah, I can do it. I can do it. I can make this.
Yeah, still no hint of when season 3 of Dirk is going to happen, so I'm still good on that front.
Yeah.
And we now know that when they announce it, it's probably a month away.
Yeah.
So I am not grinding maybe quite so hard on the...
I'm not sure it's even worth it, to be honest. Like going full grind.
No, I mean probably not. Especially now that I'm at the point where I've like got everything out of the lost packs or whatever.
Yeah, and also like stuff goes back into the pool, right? So
Well, yeah, that's what I mean.
That stuff will go back in, so you'll be able to get it
because I've got everything out of the hidden packs. If when they do put new stuff from the season in there, I can just get it immediately. In theory,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I'm done with weapon overclocks now. So I've only got cosmetic overclocks to get.
Nice.
There does seem to be a lot more of them than I. Every time I'm like, have I never seen this skin or this victory move? And I'm just like, and then that just like, as soon as I see it, because they're all class specific as well.
Yeah,
so as soon as I see it, I'm like, well, I've got to get that 3 more times evidently for all the other classes. There's just way more of these. I do wonder if maybe some of the victory moves are class specific.
Maybe. Depends what they're carrying, I guess. Or
well, I don't know.
They tend not to carry stuff, do they? Do in the end sequence?
Yeah,
or...
I mean, I don't think it would be they'd be class specific due to what class it is, as much as it just like would be a thing that would just randomly be class specific.
Right. Yeah.
It's weird because a new one that I got last time I played was like, there's that one where you have the like swarmer, and then there's actually the thing is I had 2 different versions. You have the one where you pull out a dead swarmer and drop it on the ground.
Not seen that.
You have the one where you pull out a live swarmer and then like stomp on it.
Not seen that.
And then I've got the 3rd version of that, which was totally new to me, where you pull out a live swarmer and just punt it.
Not seen that either.
No.
Those sound kind of cool.
Yeah. Because the name came up as like Swarmer Kick, and I was like, wait, wasn't it called Swarmer Stomp? And it's like, oh no, that's actually a different one. It's another one.
Those the swarmer. Oh right, no, the little
Griffids, yeah.
I mean, they could have all those again, just with the shredders, right?
I mean, I guess. I don't know if there are any specific ones like that with robots.
The robot ones.
There's obviously the ones that have been in season 1 and 2 have been like the one for the loot bug and the pickaxe throw, and I remember what the other one was. And I mean, there's a couple more obviously at the end of season 2 that we haven't got to yet. See what those are. But yeah, that's pretty much everything that I did. Didn't really do anything. I'm just waiting for a Steam sale at this point.
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
I think I'm going to get some new game.
Need something.
Yeah.
Something new.
Well, if we get done with stabbing, you can end up with my copy of Stabby Stab to go solo for a while.
I could.
Fulfill all your stabbing dreams.
That is very tempting. To just grind some of that out. I did. There was that brief moment a couple of weekends ago when I thought about playing Breath of the Wild again.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
I haven't yet. Well, it's like the only reason I didn't was because it wasn't installed, so I had to download it. And I started downloading, and then I was just like, going away from it, I never came back. I was like, I haven't quite managed to get back into being tempted into playing in the whole of Breath of the Wild again.
Oh, you've only got to wait for 3 sweet months before Splatoon happens.
Oh, that's true.
We only got to wait how long until Breath of the Wild 2 comes out. And that's a reason to start playing it now, right? Get through Breath of the Wild 1 again so you're fully refreshed on the whole of Breath of the Wild. So you can be at maximum skill.
I guess, yeah.
That's true, yeah. It's going to be pretty transferable.
Well, that is going to be kind of weird, admittedly. It's like...
What, to go from Hyrule Warriors to
Well,
back to the real game?
No, I mean... going to a new game, but it's the same game. It's always weird like that with games when it's a direct sequel and you already have all the skills.
I mean, we don't really know how it plays though yet.
But
right?
It looks like it plays very similar.
I mean,
he runs around and uses the Sheikah Slate and whatnot.
Have they shown any gameplay?
Yeah, he's using the slate powers, like the reverse time ball when he's running up the hill.
Reverse time thing, yeah.
Oh, I must have missed that.
Where the boulder goes back up the hill. It's only a brief shot, isn't it?
But it definitely looks like, he's doing the Sheikah Slate animation the same and everything. And you're like, yep, that sure looks like they've reused that like engine or whatever.
All right. I can get behind that.
I mean, there might, there's always that suspicion that maybe there's something ridiculously new, like you play as Zelda, and then it will turn into Hyrule Warriors.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I mean, that was always the suspicion, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Many characters.
Although, now that we have played Hyrule Warriors, that's going to be real disappointing for us. It's never going to be as ridiculous as Hyrule Warriors, Zelda.
No, of course not. We're not going to summon random carts out of the sky.
No.
Drops so much ice.
But yeah, I'm still, got to maybe get round to Rogue Legacy 2 at some point.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's a big one.
Oh,
Will that be in the sale, or have you got that already?
No, I mean, I missed it.
It had a launch sale.
Yeah, it had a launch sale. So now I'm waiting for the Steam sale to see if it maybe goes back to the same amount of sale.
Maybe.
Which is possible, but it's quite soon for a sale.
I don't think Rogue Legacy 2 has had the legs of people eulogizing about it that the first game did.
Well, it was a different time.
Yeah,
the first game is
absolutely.
Completely different.
Absolutely, yeah. Different time.
And in these different times, what have you been playing, Rob?
In these different times. A lot more Cyberpunk. Still trying to crank my way through that. I reached what the game describes as a point of no return.
Okay.
Oh.
But I'm not sure if it's a point of no return, meaning it's like, hey, you're going to be locked out from doing the main stuff, the open world for a while, or I don't really know what it means. Basically.
Yeah, well, it's like, what could it mean?
Yeah,
like, does it shut off a huge chunk of the map or something?
Like, is it temporary, or do I come back to this once I've finished it? Like, do I come back? Yeah, do I get a chance to finish stuff off? Like, or do I just reload back to this point if I want to finish stuff off? I don't know.
Yeah. So also, is it like literally the end of the game or not?
I have absolutely no idea.
Yeah.
I'm 47 hours in at this point, and I encountered that point of no return about 10 hours ago. So since then, I've just been doing side stuff because there's loads of it, and trying to finish off because there's like several grades of side stuff, right? There's like side stuff that is attached to things you've already done in the main quest, and are like, oh, you know this person now, and now there's a storyline involving them,
right?
That's not key to the main plot, but something about the main plot splinters off into this other one. So I think I want to try and get those done before I go into the point of no return and perhaps cut myself off from them, if that because I don't know, right? Like, maybe I should do those main ones. And I made a bit of an effort to try and gun down the achievement for one area, because the achievements in this game work for like do all of the gigs and all of the NCPD side hustles in this area of the map, and it's like, so I've done all the gigs I can see. But now it leads. The problem is I didn't realize the thing about the NCPD hustles until after I went back and read that achievement description again. It's like, oh, those only appear if you drive next to them or nearby to them on the map.
Right,
and then
so you just have to drive around a bunch.
Yeah, and then they ping up, and there's quite a lot of those. So it's like, maybe I won't go chasing that after all. I've already maxed out I've spoken before on the cast about how many damn stats there are in this game. And it's like I've already maxed out my street cred stat, which seems to be the one you get the most of for doing these little side hustle things. And it's like, well, I've maxed that out now, so what am I really getting out of this? And it's like, I guess I'll be boosting my little stats a little bit, and perhaps getting a tiny bit of money and a tiny bit of actual character level. But it's not a huge use of my time anymore. It's not a great benefit to me to keep chasing all this stuff. So yeah, I'm going to try and focus on these main, quote unquote, main side missions as much as I can.
Do the achievements track it like fully? Like, can you actually see how many there are in total?
Well, I think so. In which case, that means I'm not anywhere near it. Like, even for the area I focused on,
right?
Like, I'm at like 40% or something up the progress bar on Xbox.
Because I feel like that's the problem where you get like back in the days of like Just Cause 2 and Red Faction Guerrilla, where it's just like, here's every goddamn thing you have to kill every one of these red dots in this entire zone. So
yeah,
so grind away at it.
Man, I don't think I ever did any of those. Yeah, there's a lot, and it's I think I'm starting to now get like. This is credit to it. I think now I'm getting fatigued,
right?
Like by Cyberpunk. It's like somehow against all the odds, right? In some way, despite all my criticisms and slight mehness to the whole thing, it's been holding me.
It's held your interest, yeah.
Yeah,
for a long time. Yeah.
I mean, I've encountered some pretty funny reference stuff. There's some AI plot threads that pull on some very, let's say, tropey and well-worn territory, but it still kind of made me smile a little bit.
Cool.
They even kind of do the talking gun thing from Borderlands at one point.
Oh, right.
Was that a Borderlands thing? I can't remember.
Yes,
or like many
several
games.
other games.
Yeah, you find a talking gun. That's kind of funny. I think I'd want them to do a little more of the light-hearted stuff, because it exists and it's there, but there's not a lot of it. And I think the whole game could do with a little levity.
Yeah, for sure. It's very self-serious, isn't it?
Yeah. And there's definitely some of the longer side mission stuff that really didn't land. But it is, as I say, it's holding my interest. There's something appealing to it. I do like just looking at the city at sometimes of the day, right? Like I've said in the past that the whole game does have a funny look, and yeah, I still stand by that. It does still have a funny look, like maybe a bit overly plasticine-y in a way, and perhaps a little too much temporal anti-aliasing, causing like a little like weird flickers and artifacts at times. But there are, there's a scene I think that played out at the end of one of the side missions where you're just looking over a bit of the river and across the city at 4 a.m. in the morning, and the light's really nice, and it's just like, yeah, okay, there is a style to this game that I can get behind at times, and it's really neat. And I kind of like all the Asian influences. There's quite a lot of that, there is a Chinatown and there's a Japantown in Night City, and it's like when you're in those areas, it's like some of the architecture is real nice, and some of the areas are just pleasant to be in. There's a Shinto temple I came across the other day, and it's like you can have a wander around, and it's like, this is really nice. So yeah, there's. I think I'm coming out of it being more positive than much more positive than I expected to going into it.
Yeah, because it was always going to have a lot of good, like, I don't know. There's a lot of artists worked on it, and wanted to make it good.
Yeah, and I think the art is the game's strongest point. Like some of it definitely rubs me the wrong way. Like I don't like their advertising but that's because that's going for that like
weird tone.
Their tone. Yeah. It's like it's a little excessive. Like they'll be about having a drink that's being pressed in between someone's boobies, or a film where there's an arse being shoved in some guy's face, or this food is so good it will make your head explode, so here's a visceral head explosion graphic. It's all a bit it's all a bit much, and there's not actually enough of that. Like in a weird, there's not enough adverts in the game, so you start seeing them a lot,
repeating,
and it's like, a little too much. But then there's the occasional smart touch where you see like an advert for a thing you were actually involved with at one point, and you're like, Oh, right, that's what that was. Right, okay, got. And then so you do get a little bit of context through it sometimes. Yeah, I think the art is probably the game's strongest point. Like it's kind of naff, but like intentionally well done naffness. Like that sort of like. I sort of been thinking, it's like, actually, you know what? You remember what Back to the Future's future kind of looked like? There's a bit of that going on in places, and it's like, yeah, all right, I see it. It sort of makes sense. But yeah, all that said, I think I am starting to grow a bit tired now, because it is just massive, and it is still glitchy at times, and the stealth occasionally doesn't work as I would expect it to. You know, I've still run into problems where I'm stealthing around an area, and I'll be behind a wall which anyone under normal circumstances would just vaguely glance at and see me there, especially with my bright blue hair and light up collar on the jacket that I'm wearing. It's like, you're looking right at me, you should see me. And that guy totally won't spot you. You'll do the same thing on the same sort of wall later on, and then the guy will totally spot you, and it'll be like, I'm missing a consistency here that sucks. And it's so it's a little hard to play stealthy, because I've actually ended up playing most of this game stealthily. Like a lot of the missions seem to be like pointing you in that direction. Get in, get out without being seen seems to be quite a common request for the gigs. So I have been trying to do that, and as it turns out, the ninjutsu skill that I gain for being silent and stuff like that levels up quite quickly. So, like, yeah, I actually benefit from playing that way probably faster than I would play being hyper violent. But also because I still feel like I'm missing something though in terms of the game's mechanics. I feel like I'm playing it incredibly simply. Like, I'm either just getting up behind guys and pressing the button to take them down and then moving the corpse somewhere interesting, or I'm shooting them with guns. It's like I'm not doing a huge amount else. It's like I'm occasionally using my hacking to turn off cameras. I'm not really using my hacking for anything else. Like, there's been the odd occasion where I've done that thing they showed in some of the demos where you detonate a grenade. Like, you can hack their grenades, and then so they just explode, and a group of them is dealt with then in one go. And it's like, that's convenient. But I don't think I'm necessarily using all the hacking tools available to me. You can unlock throwing knives, and I haven't figured out how to throw a knife. And it's like,
not been very good with those in any game.
No, I just don't understand how that system works. It's like, I've got it, but I don't know how to use it. It's like I've got the mantis blades, which are like blades that come out of your arms, and then you can slice people up with it. So in theory, I've got an extra melee weapon instead of my fists.
You forget you have those, yeah.
Well, they just don't seem that effective now. It's like actually just switching to the katana, like having a katana seems like a better option. I don't know. I feel like I constantly feel like I'm missing something about how this game handles, but maybe I'm not, right? Like maybe everything is actually
maybe that
just
is how it is.
Maybe it looks complicated, but really isn't.
Yeah, I think that's a strong possibility from the time that you put into it.
It's just, if those systems do exist, if those more complicated systems do exist, then the game has done not a good enough job at telling me how they work.
No, hasn't telegraphed it, yeah.
Yeah.
But you still have a good enough time playing, even with the systems that you have got used to.
Yeah. It's all right. Yeah. My biggest gripe is the stealth stuff. Like, I wish like, as my usual gripe, I guess, with anything. It's like, I just wish those mechanics were a little more consistent. You can get yourself into trouble far too easily without it feeling like your fault.
Like, that's hard enough in a game that isn't janky. Like,
no.
You know,
there's definitely. I mean, it definitely doesn't feel so bad where it's like, I've definitely walked into trouble and been like, crap, yeah, no, you're right, I totally didn't spot that camera, that was my bad.
Sure.
But I'll still go back and reload those ones and be like, okay, no, let's try that again. Now I know where that camera is.
Right, yeah.
And
Rather than just go loud. And
whereas other times, like I'll usually do that on the missions where it's like it's encouraging being stealthy, and I'll be like, oh god damn it. But like on the missions where it doesn't seem to care,
right.
Yeah, I'll just fine. It's gone bad. Let's try and deal with this. Sometimes it goes bad in an area where actually everyone's over leveled compared to you, and it's like, oh, that's bad. That's real bad because you're not going to win that fight most of the time.
So you basically have to be stealth to get through.
Yeah, that's frustrating when that happens. And I think sometimes it doesn't quite. I think there are certain missions where it's not possible to do what the game is asking you to do, but in subtle ways. So there's this recurring side quest called Cyber Psychos. So these are people that have basically lost their mind for some reason due to their implants, and have gone a bit murdery. So you go and try and deal with them for someone, and but that someone wants you to not kill them where possible, so they can learn about them and try and in some cases help them, or at the very least learn about cyberpsychosis. And so the problem with that system seems to be that I go out of my way sometimes to deal with them with a non-lethal weapon. So I'm always carrying,
of course,
which apparently is a baseball bat.
Okay.
So the baseball bat is marked as non-lethal in the inventory, I guess because it's blunt trauma as opposed to being a blade.
I guess. Yeah, still pretty violent.
Yeah. So I've gone out of my way to try and finish people off using a non-lethal weapon, and then the thing that happens afterwards is like, message Regina so you can tell her about what happened to this person, and then it'll be like the message you send will be like, yeah, I killed the guy, and it's like, no, I didn't.
No,
I tried really hard not to.
Yeah.
I used non-lethal weaponry. Like, what are you talking about? And there'll be other times where I just totally went out guns blazing and that, like, because it was a hard fight, and just like, yeah, I shotgunned that guy many times in the face, and he's like, yeah, he's all right. And I'm like, okay, clearly
even weirder.
Yeah, clearly the way I do this is not important. It's just like these have been written in a strange way to be like just do them, and it's like, and that's really, I find that really annoying.
Yeah, that is really weird. Yeah, because it's trying to push you to play in a certain way, like by asking you things, and then it actually doesn't matter.
Yeah,
that's really jarring. Takes you out of it. Yeah,
and the idiot in me keeps trying to do it properly,
even though you know.
Even though I know.
Yeah. Because otherwise you're like willfully breaking disbelief, aren't you?
Yeah.
Or suspension of disbelief. You're like, well, I know this is just a game, and then it's not so fun to play, is it?
Yeah.
I don't know.
And I did finally encounter a hard crash. I should point that out. I don't think it's happened to me yet, but like I've had it not quick resume, which some games just do that from time to time on Xbox.
Sure.
I just had I was just driving around, just hard crashed out immediately, just went snap, gone. And it's like, that's the first time that's happened. It's like, for all the technical problems people have raised about Cyberpunk over the years, crashing doesn't seem to be that high up the list, which is something, I guess. But no, I got one finally.
Did you lose any progress?
No, I really didn't. It was like a minute away from where I was, fortunately.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, Cyberpunk. That's what I've been spending most of my time on. But I do, as I said, I was getting a little tired, so I needed a little breather between that and the Rocket Leaguing. So I've started Trek to Yomi.
Oh, okay.
For those that don't know it, it's the Kurosawa-inspired samurai hack and slash. So it's presented entirely in black and white and with film grain up the arse. It's
it's 2D
and high. It's a blend. It's Unreal Engine, and it's it's presented. It's got a 3D filmic presentation, but when you're actually fighting, everything's happening in a 2D plane. All the fights are done side on, mostly side on, sometimes with a funky camera angle, but it's all happening on a plane still. But when you're not in combat, there are certain areas, the non-combat areas can be explored in 3D. So you're moving in, finding secret rooms, finding ammo for your bow, or extra, what are they called? Like not ninja stars, but like the little sort of, what are they called? Shuriken. That's what I'm looking for. Bow
yeah.
shuriken. You're finding more of those lying around, or you're finding like a bit things to increase your health or your stamina meter. Because the combat system tries to go deep. So it's like, taking a swing takes out of your stamina meter, and blocking attacks takes away from your stamina meter. And there's a parry system you can use to try and do that without losing too much stamina, and roll around. And it's trying to like train you to like perhaps back off and regain some stamina. A little bit Dark Soulsy, I guess. One of these sorts of systems. Excuse me. And it's mostly successful at that. I've only ever tired myself out once, and that's a really bad place to be, because you've got to wait for your entire bar to come back, and you're super vulnerable. And I think I think there's a way of getting out of tired state quicker. Can't remember what that is off the top of my head. Maybe you have to parry something perfectly, and then you come out of tired state faster. But it's so I haven't found it that difficult in terms of just mashing my way into combat and then getting too tired, so that's okay. My biggest problem has been mastering the timing.
All right, yeah. Which
obviously, I guess as you might expect, is kind of a core part of samurai combat.
Yeah, absolutely.
But there's been times where it's felt off. And it's weird because it seems to like only affect certain segments. There's definitely certain sections where for some reason, like the dudes I've been fighting, I haven't been able to parry for some reason. Like try as I might, I can't parry them out. And then I'll go on to the next, I'll scrape by on that screen, and then I'll go to the next one, and I'm parrying every attack. It's like, it's weird. Something occasionally feels off on the parry timing. And I haven't quite figured out what it is. I had at first I know what I figured out what I was doing wrong at first, because it's like it tries to. This is me misreading it at one point, where it's like left bumper I think is normally your block button, but I thought it was just about timing when you block, and that will do the parry. It's like no, you've got to explicitly tap it to put yourself into a parry,
and not hold it,
not a hold. Because if you were to try and do that and hold, you'll go into block stance, but you'll go into block stance too late, so you're still going to get hit. So if you're going for the parry, you're effectively committing to doing it because you're tapping the button late and too late to then just tap and hold and get away with a block.
With a block, I see. Okay.
So that's what I was doing wrong for a while. But once I realised that, it's like okay, that stuff got easier. But there's still there's one area in particular that really wound me up for a bit, where it's just like, why isn't this working? In the same way that it seems to work everywhere else. So yeah, it's not a particularly happy story. It being Kurosawa, I guess that's to be expected. And I'm about halfway through, and it's taken a bit of a turn in the fourth act. I think there's 7 parts to it, and I'm in the 4th. And it's gone in a bit of a direction. To put some context on that, I think Yomi is effectively what they describe the grave as.
Oh, okay. That's dark. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's not a lot of happiness in the first 3 acts of the game either. So yeah, it's a bit bleak. Gnome walked out of the room at one point complaining there were too many wailing women. And it's like, well, yeah, that's probably true. All of their family's been murdered, so, they're probably quite upset. But I love the look. I think it nails that old film aesthetic incredibly well.
Nice.
It's clear that they haven't been able to, and we saw this in the trailers and stuff like that, it's clear that they haven't been able to face act everything well, so they don't show too much face acting, which is the right choice. Or when there's dialogue, it's like it's taking place from the game's perspective, so it's all zoomed out anyway. That's fine. Good choice. But when you get to see like the environments and stuff, there's like, because they're only doing it in black and white and things like that, they do really look great. The aesthetic's nice. The one thing I think I wish they did was perhaps cap the frame rate, because there are portions in the game where it seems to run at 60 and then dips below into awkward territory. even on a Series X. So like performance is clearly not this game's strong point. But because of the aesthetic they go for, I think if they had capped it at 30 and left it there the entire time, that wouldn't be a bad thing.
That wouldn't have. Oh, really? You think they should have done that? Okay.
I think they absolutely should have done that. Yeah, because it's just too wobbly is the problem. Like there's certain areas where, as I say, you'll walk into it. It will look, especially towards the start of the game, things will look very smooth as you're moving around and be running at 60, but that doesn't last.
Right.
So like instead of leaving it uncapped and floaty, I think they should have just locked it at 30. Go all in on that filmic look.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, it's a little surprising that it doesn't reach that target on a Series X, right? It's not.
Yeah, sure. Not optimized. Yeah.
Yeah, there's something a bit off there. But hey, yeah, if I wouldn't have minded, honestly, in this instance, if it had ran at 30 the entire time, I really wouldn't have minded. It's the aesthetic is king here.
Yeah, could have been an option at least. Yeah.
Yeah.
To lock the frame rate.
So Trek to Yomi. Yeah, I'm liking it. I'm liking it.
Sweet.
Available now on Game Pass. Go nuts. And that's
nice.
Me.
Cool. Just about on time as well, I think.
Just about.
Yeah, just about. And we'll have plenty more news next time, sounds like, from the Xbox thing that's going on right now. We'll discuss all of that next time. And other some of Games Fest things in between. Is there any more?
PC Game Show hasn't happened yet.
PC Game Show. Okay, that'll be good.
We've already had the Future Show. Squeenix normally do a thing.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll probably see that. Obviously, Bethesda is getting roped into the Xbox show this time. So, and we're obviously expecting Nintendo to come up with something.
Yeah, when is Nintendo going to pop up?
But they're staying quiet at the moment.
Mm-hmm. Right, so tune in next time for discussion of that. I'm just realising I might not be around next time because there will be a Glastonbury festival. But yes,
oh no,
might have the news from Rob and Zach instead. But we shall see. Cool.
Guest perspective incoming.
Indeed, you may have a guest perspective. But we also have a YouTube channel, so check out our videos there. We've got a continuing series of Ocarina of Time, so check out those Let's Plays. We're getting near the end now. And yeah, some form of us will be back in a couple of weeks with another Saladcast. Bye.